Welcome back to another episode of the Biker PM. Today we continue our conversation with Zach Driscoll. So if you haven't listened to the first part, stop now, go back and listen. So let's get started. Sometimes people always have this dream and sometimes people fall into doing it. But it's that ability to just take that leap of faith and do it. And it sounds like, your parents helped with that leap of faith ability because of the way they supported you and the way they raised you, which is sometimes you have a bad job situation and that's like, okay, I'm done. I don't want to ever go back. Do you have any, so you have two companies now. Is any thoughts of expanding? Do you have any other ideas? Entrepreneurs always have ideas. That's why I'm asking. We always have ideas. As an entrepreneur, it's like, we have these list of ideas, things we want to do. We can't do everything and not everything at once, but what else do you have in your head?
Yeah, sure. Well, I'd say I definitely have my hands full in work and in life. So I don't have any specific things that I'm like, oh, I really want to open this up or I really want to try this. So for me, a lot of my ideas are focused on ways of continually growing and improving what we're doing now. And so I would say most of my energies, say almost all my energies going into that and being a good father and husband, basically, like those are kind of, and trying not to blow up my phone anytime I see the Mets scores coming in lately, because they've been really so I got my hands full with all those things, you know what I mean? But yeah, I'm trying to think if I can kind of break that down further. But yeah, I would say mostly it's like there are some things that we're working on now that we're hoping to unveil in the next few months with the existing business. And also too, with our growth, it's been very strong the last, I want to say, year or so. A lot of it there is just learning how to, as we grow, make that efficient, like how we can consistently find good people for the jobs and find what that sweet spot is of exactly what we're looking for, how to structure the business and how to make sure our systems stay in place and don't crumble as we start adding more people to it. So yeah, I definitely always have a bunch of crazy ideas that I'm looking to do, but right now it's just kind of all right, we got something that's doing really well and I don't want to take my eye off that.
It's good. I mean, scalability is something that people sometimes they don't think about when they start a business, is or they're afraid of it. They want it, but when it starts happening, it scares them. And so they're like, I don't know if I can handle this. How do you address it internally? It's, you're growing, do you have that fear of are we going to get too big? Am I going to be able to handle this? And then how do you talk yourself down, I guess is.
100%. Yeah. I think a lot of people think of a business owner or entrepreneur as this fearless, swashbuckling badass or whatever. And I'm sure there are out there. Richard Branson doesn't seem too worried about anything he's doing. You know what I mean? I'm sure there are out there. I'm not that person. I worry. I've played with self-doubt. I always think everything's going to go wrong. I'm whatever he is, I'm 100% the opposite of that. And so, yeah, I'm constantly worried about that kind of stuff. So I would say when I first started the business, you got that voice in your head who's like, you don't know what you're doing. You're good at marketing, but you don't know anything about running a business. And so you start to prove, I feel like it's always about picking up wins and being no, voice, you're an idiot. Look what we just did. And then that voice quiets down for a while. And then there's always that pervasive, hey, someday something's going to happen and you're not going to see it coming and you're going to get totally cleaned out. You're just not going to see it coming. You're just going to get totally disrupted. And then COVID happened. And we definitely lost some billings on that week when it was really oh man, This is really happening in the United States. And that voice popped up and I was like, see, yep, you didn't see that coming, idiot, you're not going to be able to do this. And so I remember just going into doubling down and just going into full aggressive sales mode and just being nope, we're not, the ship is not going down. And then we started to pick up a lot of traction. And then as we started to grow Rainmaker quite a bit, yeah, you start to get that voice in your head where it's ooh, are you going too fast? Do you not, what if things start to turn down? Or what if you hit your ceiling of demand? No, because hang on, let's do a little test here. No, there's plenty of demand. We can kind of scale our advertising and we're still coming in. So no. So I guess I keep coming up against that all the time. And I think it's important to have that voice in your head. I think the people that don't are the people that just drive it right off the cliff. You know what I mean? Because they're not checking themselves. But I think it's important too, to make sure that I'm listening to that as a check on my ego, but I'm not letting it make the decisions. So I guess that's the way I would describe it.
Well, yeah, because it's not only you. I mean, you have to think about the people that you're hiring, the employees. So voice in the head is not only, you've got a lot of responsibility as an entrepreneur, but even as a solopreneur, the same thing when it's yourself, and even if you're the breadwinner for the family or whatever, then you have that voice is a good thing to keep yourself in check and make sure that you are focusing on what's important, what's going to get you where you need to go.
Yeah, 100%. So yeah, it's like as long as you don't let fear take the steering wheel and drive the car, but like still listen to it because there are times where yeah, maybe you are getting a little too aggressive. So yeah, it's definitely a tough thing that I wrestle with all the time, but and which I used to view as like a weakness, but I think looking back, I'm actually glad that I do worry all the time about stuff. I can pump the brakes a little bit on that and be fine, but I do think it's also been really helpful, I think.
To go back to your starting this during COVID, what do you think was the biggest challenge you had to overcome?
Yeah, it's a good question. I would say the number one thing is probably what we just talked about, which is that just like it's more like mentality. I think it was like mentality and attitude of making sure to, yeah, this is no one knows what's happening right now, but that's okay. Like I don't have to know. Like I like certainty in my life. That at that time there was almost no certainty about anything. I think a lot of it was just keeping a clear head while there was a lot of people that were very much in the business world. I don't want to say panicking, but making more emotional decisions. And so I think like to me that was a big battle of making sure like, all right, let's still think long. Like we think have to like make sure our short term we're doing the right things, but
Mhm.
also don't stop thinking long term too. So I think that was a big challenge. And then the other thing too is at the time people were a little less. Some people were less likely to spend on marketing because usually like if your business
Yeah,
is getting hit, the first thing you're going to be doing is like, oh, well, cut this marketing cost, which is a short-term win, but maybe a long-term loss. You know what I mean?
yeah,
So
exactly.
that was a big challenge of getting people to understand that. And so I think it helped that we have something we could sell to people that you could see results very quickly. I think that helped because a lot of people were kind of like, I want to be as bare bones as possible with my marketing, and I want to make sure that I'm not going like too crazy because it seems like an expense right now because things are scary. So I think that was a big challenge too during the sales process of making sure that people you could kind of feel people out and make sure that they weren't getting too bogged down in that. You had to have that conversation, which we didn't usually have to have as much.
I'm curious for your digital agency and then Rainmaker, has your team always been all virtual?
Oh yeah, that's a good point. Yeah, we never even talked about that. But yeah, that was no adjustment because we started out virtually, like,
Yeah.
and so we didn't have to figure that out because we'd been doing it for years. So that was nice because I know a lot of people had never done that before,
Yeah.
and it can be it is a really big difference. Just like I can't tell you how many times like in an office you'll just bump into people and have conversations with people. Information will kind of just get passed naturally, and then you have to with being virtual, you have to like basically schedule that stuff in to make sure it happens. So that was definitely something that we had been doing for a while. So I think that helped.
Do you feel overwhelmed, overstimulated, and overworked? There's so much you need to do, but you don't know what the best way to do it is? And you're not sure where all your time goes each week? Jump on over to my website, pavproconsulting.com. You can download my free PDF, The 5 Proven Strategies to Steal Back Lost Time and Money in Your Business. And while you're there, you can book a free process discovery session. pavproconsulting.com. Move forward with confidence, focus, and productivity. That's good. Yeah, that's what, because I know people always like, I get the same question is like, how is it working from home now? I worked from home before. The only difference is if I want to go sit at Starbucks, I couldn't go sit at Starbucks and work. you
Sure.
know, that's the biggest difference for me with as far as virtual, except for teaching because I teach college, so that went virtual, which has been awkward. Having
Yeah.
30 students in a class, I always say it's like a huge Brady Bunch scene. Not everybody on camera, so it's like trying to see if people are paying attention and everything.
Yeah,
That's
you can't
been
really take the temperature. I feel like that's the hardest thing. So in a one-on-one conversation like this, is it's basically
easy.
the same. But like, yeah, one to many, you can't take the temperature of the room as easily. You're like, and then people start turning their camera off because they're like, I don't want people seeing my like. Because if I look a certain way while I'm watching a lecture in class, like I guess I don't think I'm as visible. But when I'm sitting here where I can see my own face, I'm like, what? So you see a lot of
Yeah,
people going dark on the screen there.
yeah, yeah. Is there anything that motivates you to keep going besides that your success and everything to motivate you to keep going as an entrepreneur, not necessarily in the business, but as an entrepreneur? Is there something that keeps motivating you to keep striving to keep this?
Yeah, I guess a few things. So I think the number one thing would probably be my family and knowing that people are depending on me. So like I think that's a big motivator. You want to make sure that your family's proud of you. My wife, my daughter, like everyone in my family to be proud of what we're doing and make sure that do the things that we want to do as a family. So I think that to me has always been a big motivator is like creating a life for us that we
Yeah,
want to have. So that's definitely something that wakes me up in the morning. And then the other thing would be too, like our team. I love being part of a team, and it's super rewarding to attack problems together as a team. honestly, I just like love that stuff. So that's really motivating to me, because if someone's like choosing to work at your company, like there's a certain amount of trust and faith they're putting in you that you're going to make good decisions and that what you're doing is going to be successful. So I never want to let those people down either. And then I think the other thing, which is kind of an abstract thing, so I don't know if I'm going to be able to explain it that well, but it's the idea of creating this, I don't know if it's like a machine or an organism or however we want to describe it, that like can provide value to people. And it never feels like it's quite finished. It's like that painting that you're never quite done
Yeah.
working on or whatever, but it feels like it's cool to build something that's like genuinely functional, that like exists in the world, that can just kind of has a life of its own in a way. And that's, to me, like really fun, because I kind of came from a background where I was really into kind of like artsy creative stuff, and it's like it's a version of that, but it's also at the same time very like utilitarian, and I can like measure how useful this is. You know what I mean? So
Mhm.
I think that's been a cool. So I don't know if that makes any sense, but like that aspect of it has been like, that's really motivating and really kind of like satisfying to get right, even if you never quite get it perfect.
Yeah, and it's a constant adjustment, constant change, constant adapting to. So I don't think it's ever. Is there any perfect anything that's ever perfect? It's just because you're always looking for to improve it. So, and if you look at it as something you've gotten perfection, then you stop striving for something better. Let's go back to Rainmaker a little bit because we've got the introduction, what you're doing. Talk to me about the process. How do you help people? What
Yeah,
is your
sure.
process for getting business
Yeah,
for your
sure.
client?
So basically a few different things. So I would say our primary sort of means of doing it is we focus on outbound, because we've just seen that be as very transferable to a lot of different companies. So basically it kind of breaks down into like three steps. So our step one would be kind of our onboarding phase, where we get to know an agency, get to know what type of clients they do best with, what they're doing that other people aren't doing, like all the special things about them that kind of make them stand out. And then we put together basically some materials, basically how we're going to pitch them to their prospects. And then we go out there and actually make that happen. So essentially, if you were to take on Rainmaker, we would essentially kind of plug into the agency and focus on outbound for those agencies, and yeah, basically start conversations with the type of companies they can do well with, and try to push those towards getting appointments on the calendar and stuff like that. So it fits in really well. A lot of agencies, small, medium-sized agencies, you have like a couple partners or an owner or whatever, and they have to focus on all different aspects of their company. Like, how do I get clients? How do we onboard them? How do we deliver the thing that we
Yeah.
promised? And how do we then run a company on top of that? So I found that for many agencies, it's kind of like the same business model as maybe like a law firm or whatever. You can kind of pick one. Anytime it's like professional services, it's kind of like you have to split your time between doing the thing and also bringing in new business. And a lot of times that new business pipeline isn't as consistent as it probably should be. So that's a place where we can kind of just come in and make it happen.
And sometimes you have to find what does the business owner like to do. I mean, just like you said with business, any professional agency, if you enjoy your job but you're not one of those people that enjoy sales, then this is a perfect opportunity to go out and have somebody help you with it. It's like what I do. I go in and help people set up their project management processes, or I run them for them. If they're small and you help show them how to do it, then they can do it until they get to the point to where I'm too busy, or I just don't really like doing this. I need somebody to do it for me.
Sure.
And so, yeah, as an entrepreneur, we always think we have to do everything, but it's not always. We first of all, we can't do everything. It's going to be almost as when we're going to get to a point to where it's not possible. But then there are things. Some people just don't like sales. They don't like to do that. So this is a perfect fit to be able to come in and say, okay, I will take care of what you don't like. You deliver. You build that relationship after it's in.
Yeah, totally. Can definitely agree with that. And yeah, that's what we find. As I was kind of asking around to like colleagues and stuff like that, I was always trying to feel like what was the thing they hated the most. And it was always that. It's fine when I'm talking to somebody, but like, God, getting that stuff on the books is just so like, I feel like such an idiot reaching out and all this kind of stuff. I don't know. I've always been one of those weirdos who actually I enjoy that part of it. Like, it's kind of one of my favorite parts. So I don't know what that says about me. Maybe I'm just a messed up person, but it wound up working really well for this. And yeah, to your point, yeah, you can't do everything. I've learned that before, where you just get busy to the point where, oh, I've maxed out on, I am 99% of the time we have any sort of bottleneck, it's my fault. It's because like I'm holding on to something, and it's like, oh,
Yeah.
well, I'm getting in the, oh, because like, oh, yeah, because somebody else could be doing this and I'm doing it. And then I got too busy with all these things. And so that's been a lesson I've thankfully gotten better at in the last year or two or whatever. But early on, I wasn't even trying to be selfish about it or be like, oh, only I know how to do it. Like I didn't even have like an ego. I just unintentionally be in the middle of something and be holding up the works a little bit. It took me
So
a while.
learn to let go, right?
Yeah, and just get out of the way. Yeah, totally.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
yeah.
Before we go, if people want to find out more about you and more about Rainmaker, what's the best place to go? Give us some contact info.
Yeah, sure. So I guess number one thing would just be check out our website. Just spelled a little funky. It's Rainmaker, but it's RAINMAKR. So not ER, it's just MAKR.io. That's our website. And then you could just also hit me up on LinkedIn if you want to talk about anything business, sales, how much you hate the Mets too, whatever you want to say.
How much you love and hate them at the same time.
Yeah. So, so that LinkedIn, my personal LinkedIn is always a good spot to hit me up if somebody want to reach out directly.
Okay, perfect. I'll put those, I'll link to them in the show notes so that people have it.
Oh, cool. Thank you.
Thanks a lot, Zach. I appreciate it. It's been great.
Awesome. Yeah, nice talking to you.
Thanks for joining us for another episode of the Biker PM. Don't forget to subscribe and leave a comment. I'd love to hear what you think. And remember, if you're an entrepreneur that wants to be with like-minded individuals and improving their project management skills, join the Biker PM Facebook group and watch out for some exciting news coming soon. Until next time.